Hello, and we actually start on time, or even slightly before time, which is a rarity. Somehow that also happened. So, welcome again, and this time it's again like more, at least, would say, atmospheric slash gothic game. After Russian fishing yesterday, now we do have very different game from the previous one that was Dead Space. This time we do have Dear Esther, which more or less is in the quite old category of like interactive novel. So it's not really at all a game in the sense that there's very little for the player to actually effect. More of you like find things in the world and try to piece the story together. So it's kind of like walking simulator with some story content as far as I've understood. Check that the game works and observe that it actually has only 5 controls. It like has movement and it has zoom in, so clearly there isn't going to be much like mechanisms or overall or fighting, so it's clearly very different design concept. So let's see at least one session of like where we find ourselves with the quite deserted island of Dear Esther. This is actually the creator of the game, like Chinese Room, later ended up making other games and was originally kind of like a university project in that respect. So it's interesting that this was their first game and actually was quite well respected apparently at the time. So let's. Oh, hello there, Ticatron and Jax. Welcome to the stream. We are soon starting with Dear Esther, which is quite minimalist slash atmospheric, more of like piece the story together through finds in the environment kind of a game compared to the Dead Space previously. So let's soon move towards the game. Daggerfall, yes, it's the predecessor of the other, like, after Elder Scrolls Arena there was Daggerfall, so it's like the second game in the Elder Scrolls series after the Arena, so it's an older one of the Elder Scrolls games with like a huge map and a lot of bugs as usual, if that's the same game we are thinking about. So, hello there, Camu. Welcome also. Let you get a. Alright, interesting. But yes, it's one of the Elder Scrolls games. If it's the same Daggerfall we are talking about, it's would say the arena was more like a technical experiment because much of the map is actually more or less only procedurally generated and not very interesting. But Daggerfall kind of takes the concept and runs away with it as far as you can say, like Bethesda game being successful. Yes, there are 2 bats in the castle. One of them is resting, as you can see. So welcome all, and let's see what we find in Dear Esther, which should be kind of a bit more calm a game than Dead Space previously, but not it doesn't include fishing, unlike Russian fishing. So let's switch to the game and see what we find. So we want to start director's commentary. No, we do not especially want director's commentary, so we have like the lighthouse. This game has clearly been designed for atmosphere. It gives ridiculously dark image. Dear Esther, I sometimes feel as I've given birth to this island.
And it beached remotely here. No matter how hard I correlate, it remains a singularity. An alpha point in my life that refuses all hypothesis. I return each time leaving fresh markers that I hope,
right, quite philosophical writing,
will have blossomed into fresh insight in the
and right, so we are actually in 3D view, and we have apparently arrived on the island here, as this is like the pier or what remains of it. It's actually even more bleak than expected. Like, if you could have a more bleak island with a lighthouse in the world, would be surprised. We should most probably also immediately increase brightness a bit for the benefit of the Fursuiter, as the game is so bleak that it actually produces really dark image, even like. And we actually, as mentioned, we only have like 5 controls. Move forward, move back, move left, move right, and zoom in, and that's it. So this isn't like a game where you expect plenty of interesting mechanics. More of like, it's very minimalist, and it's even more bleak really than expected. And we also nowadays have Stream Elements chatbot available, so you can use like the standard commands like follow H or whatever if you wish. Enabled those that seemed relevant for the current concept overall here. So we have very bleak. Right, we have like not very intact boat. Alright, we at least have a flashlight. It helps a little. Yeah, it's kind of like not the best preserved lighthouse in existence. Alright, looks like sheet music apparently, if observing that correctly. Can we like actually study the paper, so it's like only there were some papers. at least the minimalism is quite considerable, because there's no and here we have another room which doesn't look any more promising. Alright. What are we then supposed to find here? Because we can't like read any of the notes. And pretty much everything is really decayed. Alright, someone has like inked a organic molecule graph here, like, alright. Ah, yeah, the kind of like the electric interference, which actually is like unsure exactly what is the overall issue. It's related to, should get like a real microphone. By now very confused what I'm really supposed to do. The overall concept of the game appears to be very minimalist, like. Oh, hugs. Can we somehow climb to the lighthouse, because we are only able to move on the level? Let's check the path. So we just end up on the beach and there's like a radio mast or such with the light beacon in the distance. Some fishing equipment here.
At night, you can see the lights sometimes from a passing tanker or trawler. From up on the cliffs, they are mundane. But down here, they fugue into ambiguity. For instance, I cannot readily tell if they belong above or below the waves. The distinction now seems banal. Why not everything and all at once? There's nothing better to do here
Right,
than
that's
indulge in
quite bleak.
contradictions whilst waiting for the fabric of life to unravel.
Apparently there wasn't much to find in the lighthouse, at least, like you couldn't read any of the letters or do anything else. And the overall really bleak palette choice also, even when you increase the brightness, renders such a dark image for the shooter that it's like if you are supposed to find any small details, it's not like... Alright, there's some kind of a circle here. Interesting. Yeah, it's kind of like a walking simulator. We checked the lighthouse and the storehouse out first, but especially with the very limited flashlight radius, couldn't really find anything interesting there. Kind of unsure if already like failed the game by not checking the... by checking the lighthouse enough with the really minimal flashlight. Had pizza for lunch today, nice. And it's been really good to hear that you have been doing better also, Jax. So also that's been really good to hear. And it seems Dear Esther has gotten quite a few viewers out, so of course going to give you a wave. Again, it's great to see. Alright. Haven't eaten much today. Yeah, you did a long art stream, so... And thank you for the... Wiggly, by the way, Kisu. Great to hear, much better. Unsure if was supposed to find anything in the lighthouse, other than it was really abandoned and spooky, and had an organic molecule carved on the... or like done in fluorescent ink on the wall. It's like some kind of diagram like golden ratio or such, when you have the circle and then you have the divisions, it's like geometric. Right, there's an arrow, so it's like each has an increasing area, but then you end up with the arrow. Interesting diagram. Very windy here.
Dear Esther, I found myself to be as featureless as this ocean, as shallow and unoccupied as this bay, a listless wreck without identification. My rocks are these bones, and a careful fence to keep the precipice at bay. Shot through me caves. My forehead a mount. This aerial will transmit into me so. All overexposed, the nervous system, where Donnelly's boots and yours and mine still trample. I will carry a torch for you. I will leave it at the foot of my headstone. You will need it for the tunnels that carry
Right.
yonder.
Foot of your headstone, yes, but where's that? Yeah, I do know well that it's not really when you have only 5 functions one of which is really limited zoom. It's not really a game proper because can't be real game mechanics when it's like do know that this more or less replicates like the old genre you had on home computers like Mind Forever Wandering or such, which were practically more or less novels that were told through the computer medium, so it's not really a game in the ordinary sense as far as no. Kisu is maybe a bit hangover still. Is that the case, or is like Jack's only guessing that? Kisu said YW. Alright. So was that the reason for the guess about the hangover, or? Alright, let's then wander further, still confused, like would need to find torch, but unsure where it would have been left, so it's kind of like unsure if can actually then succeed in the game. So it's like you can't even jump, so it's kind of like hard to navigate some spots with the rocks because you can't jump at all. And there apparently are not that many ways to go. There's like a round thingy. Of course we have no means to really interact with anything as we can only zoom and we can walk. Alright, this seems to be some kind of entrance, but are we missing something to actually make progress? At least we have the flashlight, but it's quite poor. No, this isn't actually anything other than like just a round thingy, but doesn't seem to do anything. Especially as our only means to interact with the world is zoom, so kind of unsure where we are supposed to go now. It triggered the text that mentioned the torch and the headstone, but have not observed any graveyard, so where to find anything? There's the arrow, but nothing to find here either. At least currently unable to solve it because seems that there's some kind of something should be concluded here, so we'll wander for like a while more and then we'll ask for a hint because it seems that I'm currently missing something and or should have explored the derelict lighthouse or something further as clearly currently unable to at least go further. So we'll try for a while. This diagram clearly points like, of course, the arrow literally points here, but that doesn't seem to do anything. And it's kind of not very easy to move among the rocks, as there is no movements proper other than linear. There's that stone further out, but kind of concerned that can't make it there, and it doesn't seem to be interesting. Let's see a bit further back, but do not think it was the idea like to go back from here. Alright, that certainly doesn't look like there would be anything there. Alright, here there are two routes. But that doesn't seem to matter that much either. That would be the way up to the lighthouse. Or is there anything interesting? Ah yeah, here are the fishing supplies, so is there actually something else here? Alright, and this way goes where? Like a coastal path further up. With some nice barbed wire and everything.
The mount is clearly the focal point of this landscape. It almost appears so well placed as to be artificial. I find myself easily slipping into the delusional state of ascribing purpose, deliberate motive to everything here. Was this island formed during the moment of impact? When we were torn loose from our moorings, and the seatbelts cut motorway lanes into our chests and shoulders, did it first break surface then?
Alright, very philosophical.
When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boats, and know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff paths died.
Alright, that's kind of bleak again.
My lines are just for this.
The infection is not simply of the flesh, yeah, and we can see the stripes, so kind of interesting geological features that you like cut, and it actually reveals white limestone. Interesting. Geological features, you say. Ah, yeah, the autumn vacation, yes. Alright, still schoolwork though, but it's good to hear that you have some, at least partially free time, Jax. Ah, yeah, might be, do not know. You at least haven't mentioned this before, Kisu, but it's well possible because this has existed for a good while and was a pretty well-known game at one time, so wouldn't be surprised. Alright, there are some standing stones here.
They were God-fearing people, those shepherds. There was no love in the relationship. Donnelly tells me that they had one Bible that was passed around in strict rotation. It was stolen by a visiting monk in 1776, 2 years before the island was abandoned altogether. In the interim, I wonder, did they assign chapter
Alright,
and verse to the
this
stones
sounds a lot
crosses,
like some things
marking
with
the
Hookland
geography with a superimposed
standing stones
significance
and
that they could actually walk the Bible
such.
and inhabit its contradictions.
Feels a bit like Hookland. Alright, this would be a headstone. Or not. It's just a standing stone also.
Dear Esther, I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, He still spiraled in panic, thrown high and
Alright,
lucid by
sounds
his own
quite
dented
bleak,
bonnet.
like suburban
Responsibility
elderly.
had made him old. Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life.
Arms almost fell off. That sounds like really hard work. Yeah, this game had some reputation, at least at one point, like as kind of unusual one. And it certainly is unusual, as said, to know that it's more or less resurrection of kind of like computerized novel. There used to be those for like home computers considerably more, so this is interesting, certainly. Alright, we are that way from the lighthouse now. Alright, 1 kilogram hammer. That's indeed. It at least is good practice. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that there's some drama about that. At this point, because it appears we are again finding like a cave entrance, going to ask, has this one missed anything that would be necessary to actually move further, as the flashlight when examining the lighthouse was horrible, like you see about 3 pixels. But yes, sounds like hard work indeed. And do think that after this stream also, Jax, you're going to get VIP here, because you have been now joining regularly, so. Alright, so go in.
I find myself increasingly unable to find that point where the hermit ends and Paul and I begin. We are woven into a sodden blanket, stuffed into the bottom of a boat to stop the leak and hold back the ocean. My neck aches from staring up at the aerial. It mirrors the dull throb in my gut where I am sure I've begun to form another stone.
Alright, it's kind of interesting, the overall descriptions, because they are kind of combination of
traffic in a vacuum of fatalistic calm.
imagery from like regular British life and mysteries. Alright, that's like a neuron. Then we again have organic molecule, which also has the kind of steric indicators. so unsure why it has the steric indicators, because it would appear to be such a quite regular thing as ethanol. So unsure, and some of the hydrogens have been left undrawn. Unsure what that presents. Alright, indeed. Thank you for the generic description. Eep.
Come back.
What happened? Alright, there's the beacon. There's the cave entrance. Yeah, kind of unsure whether that was intentional, like did I pass out, or was that like either that failed at something, which is, considering the minimal mechanics of the game, quite improbable, and or it was an issue. Would imagine though that when you only have walking and reading in the titles, they would test it for that. We also got an achievement, so believe that it wasn't a glitch. Let's see, like we got an achievement, so drown once. Very well. So we drowned. So that was not a glitch, we actually drowned, and answered there was probably deep water there which we didn't see at all, so most probably we have to enter the cave again and try. Like that went surprisingly less than well. How can we prevent ourselves from drowning? Achievement is helpful. So there's deep water somewhere there, but how can we really make it out? Let's stay on this side. Alright, that's like, would seem that that's actually sea. No wonder. But the kind of low contrast, and yes, that's like a sea proper, so no wonder if we walk into the sea. So that explains we actually drowned. Yes. And the achievement explained that well, like you get an achievement for drowning, so that clarifies it. Alright, is that like stream? Looks like it.
I've become convinced I am not alone here, even though I'm equally sure it is simply a delusion brought upon by circumstance. I do not, for instance, remember where I found the candles, or why I took it upon myself to light such a strange pathway. Perhaps it is only for those who are bound to follow.
Alright, mysterious, bound to follow. Alright, more barbed wire. Let's try and not tear ourselves on it. Yeah, it looks a bit like that, but it's actually, do think, because they mentioned the UK consistently in the titles, would think that this is like some outer Hebrides or such kind of like remote island towards the North Sea from the looks of it. So somewhat similar biome, yes, would say. Right. Alright, more standing stones. Alright, and here's the stream again. The landscape is certainly nice with the nice landscape with the standing stones, certainly. But apparently not that much to find with them other than see the standing stones.
Dear Esther, I have now driven the stretch of the M5 between
I've
Exeter
driven
and
the
Bristol
stretch
over
of the
21
M5
times.
between Exeter and
And although I have all the
Bristol.
reports and all the witnesses,
Right.
and I've cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my ordnance survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turn-off for Sanford and the welcome brake services, but although I can always see it in my rear-view mirror, I have as yet been unable to pull ashore.
Alright, interesting. Again, kind of like Hookland, that you have maps of the UK and try to find something. And of course, again, also taking the moment to remind about the clip contest. So take clips of streams this month and you may win a nice YCHH with this one's skunk. So do remember to take clips. Currently we do think have no entries yet, so any clip actually still taken this month is very much eligible, as we do not yet have any entries. Alright, there's at least one path here. Let's check this for now. What's actually down there? Like two. Are they again standing stones or something, kind of like a beachy area? Let's see if we walk this way. There's also something flashing down there faster than the red beacon. Let's see where this path takes us. That appears to be a shipwreck. Tayberry, or which kind of berry you are thinking about, Jax? There are at least a few that are kind of different ones there.
An imagined answer phone message. The tires are flat, the wheel spins loosely, and the brake fluid has run like ink over this map, staining the landmarks and rendering the coastline mute, compromised. Where you saw galaxies, I saw only bruises cut into the cliff by my lack of sobriety.
Alright, the kind of like in the titles seem to metaphorically at times describe a car accident. Right, this path isn't taking us any further because we hit the barbed wire. There's some kind of beacon also out in the sea. But we are not getting any further this way because there's only the barbed wire, so let's return and try another path. Kind of from the mysterious in the titles, it seems something bad happened, as they seem to describe a car accident in a very roundabout way. Alright, there's the beacon, the other beacon, the one with red light. So this looks like the other path we can take. Ah, yeah. Tyrni Maria, that's... Yeah, I do not think this is much too sandy for Tyrnimaria. I do think it's a different berry. Tyrnimaria doesn't really grow on this kind of terrain very well, would say. So let's then see where the other path leads us. Oh, kisu kisu, loaf, soft cat. Alright, again like that's something but not really able to tell what. Alright, there's a fence actually, so no wonder couldn't walk that way. So towards the shipwreck we go. Ah, crows in sand. Interesting. Not either an expert on berries, so of course do not claim to know all the growing possibilities for those. That's like probably remains of a barrel or some machine part. Not very clear. Like that's actually apparently a car part, like a muffler.
I had kidney stones, and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in anesthetic, your outline and your speech both blurred. Now my stones have grown into an island and made their escape, and you have been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk.
Alright, it indeed seems there has been some kind of car accident. We also have a shipping container, but it's just lying there. There has indeed been a shipwreck in this cove. Kind of a smallish container ship, it appears. Not very major one, as it has carried a few containers proper. Not very recent either, as the ship is that badly already corroded. Right, this way we can't get much further, as we can only move linearly, and it starts to be quite as if we went up that path. It had only the barbed wire, do think. But we can't get much further here, as it gets too rough terrain wise with our linear movement. So this goes further down the beach, so let's check that next. Yeah, full range disaster certainly, like the container ship has clearly ended up totally destroyed on the cove. Alright, there's another shipwreck further in. Looks like this is not the best place to go boating.
There must be a hole in the bottom of the boat. How else could new hermits have arrived?
Alright. Looks somewhat like a diagram of like some antenna system with the coils and emitter. So that's the diode sign, so it's kind of LED. So that would be kind of like, if we assume that's a transformer, would be like powered by external power source. But electronics diagram in any case, most probably. Not able to get much further this way. There's another shipwreck, but we apparently can't really go here. Alright. Can't really go up there either. Let's see. Can't really go here. Alright. So that shipwreck doesn't really appear reachable. There's another path here, it seems, so that would probably be. You have to go by helicopter. Alright. Do you mean in this game or like in a actual like island somewhere in the world?
Is this what Paul saw through his windscreen? Not Lot's wife looking over her shoulder, but a scar in the hillside, falling away to black forever.
Alright, certainly not going to fall there. So this didn't lead us further much. Alright, there's barbed wire, so can we like go at a higher level? Yep. Yeah, there have been really difficult lighthouses, both historically and nowadays. Of course, actual technical content would note that most lighthouses are automated nowadays, so it's like you do not anymore really typically have like continuous staffing at most lighthouses, because they are automated and run by like solar power or nuclear batteries or whatever, and you do not really need people there to mostly maintain it only through visits. So yes, you may have to take a helicopter, but usually there's no permanent staffing anymore either at most lighthouses.
I've begun to climb.
All right.
Away from the sea and towards the center. It is a straight line to the summit, where the evening begins to coil around the aerial and squeeze the signals into early silence. The bothy squats against the mount to avoid the gaze of the aerial. I too will creep under the island like an animal and approach it from the northern shore.
All right, quite symbolic. There's like remains of a house here, but not much to find. Like, this was once a house, but there isn't much left of it. Really nice landscape though. Like with the contrast and everything. Would take a photograph of that. Kind of pretty island, yes, you are right, Kisu. It has a certain charm to it. Yeah, that's probably one of the things that enticed some to like become lighthouse keepers, that you live there in considerable solitude and then see ships and storms pass by, so there certainly must have been some outright interest towards the kind of job.
The bothy was constructed originally in the early 1700s. By then, shepherding had formalized into a career. The first habitual shepherd
All
was a
right,
man called
migratory
Gothic,
Scandinavians.
a lineage of migratory Scandinavians. He was not considered a man of breeding by the mainlanders. He came here every summer whilst building the bothy, hoping eventually that becoming a man of property would secure him a wife and a lineage. Donnelly records that it did not happen. He caught some disease from his malcontented goats and died 2 years.
All right, that's kind of bleak.
There's no one to carve white lines into the cliff for him either.
Say the least. Alright, and here we have another totally abandoned house, apparently. Same box as one that had fallen by the broken ship.
My heart is landfill. These false dawns waking into the still never light. I sweat for you in the small hours and wrap my blankets into a mass. I have always heard the waves break on these lost shores, always the gulls forgotten.
Alright, we are most probably on the Hebrides.
Hebridean music.
Quite big books. Would be nice to study them. Hebridean history, yeah. So we probably are somewhere in the Hebrides. Alright, another something in the fluorescent paint and a collapsed part of the house. Haha, yeah, furry streams, like these ones. Resting but woke up. Yeah, unsure how the bats actually changed. But yes, seems so. Alright, this was the collapsed house. The island is surprisingly big. Didn't really expect this many places by far. Different coves and buildings and everything. Alright, this doesn't look safe.
What to make of Donnelly, the laudanum and the syphilis? It is clearly not how he began, but I've been unable to discover if the former was a result of his visiting the island or the force that drove him here. For the syphilis, a drunk driver smashing his insides into a pulp as he stumbled these paths, I can only offer my empathy. We're all victims of our age. My disease is the internal combustion engine.
Alright, yeah.
The cheap fermentation of yeast.
Apparently, this guy also liked to drink. Really narrow paths. Like, yeah, mountaineering, you say. Yeah, Kisu, Luna, Kate, they're all really good streamers. Alright, it seems we are just making it, like hugging the wall. Really narrow path.
They found Jakobsen in early spring. The thaw had only just come. Even though he'd been dead nearly 7 months, his body had been frozen right down to the
Alright,
nerves,
so
and had
our
not
good
even
shepherd
begun to decompose.
froze after expiring of
Small flowers were watching from the
disease.
big sun. The goats had adjusted happily to life without a shepherd and were grazing freely about the valley. Donnelly reports they hurled the body in fear and disgust down the shaft, but I cannot corroborate this story.
Alright. And again we come down to a cove here. Some remains of structures and or another shipwreck. Looks like an even older shipwreck. Yeah, it has remains of a mast. And again one of the same style of boxes. Yeah, this is like even more vintage shipwreck than the earlier ones. Oh, hello there, Luna. You also get a wave. We are going to finish soon, as it has been the usual 1.5 hours soon, and it's of course Monday tomorrow, so we will continue at least until the end of the chapter, as this game apparently only saves at the end of each chapter, so we continue until we finish this chapter, and then we conclude, so we still continue for some time at least. Yeah, very strong internet. So waves to Luna, of course, also, and we are adventuring in Dear Esther, which is almost like, do think, if you said, Luna, you were going to play Scorn tomorrow, this is like the diametric opposite of Scorn, because this is like not game at all, almost very minimalist and material wise kind of just mysterious. So we had very much vintage shipwreck. Surprisingly, the mast is still up, because usually that falls first when the ship gets destroyed.
Climbing down to the caves, I slipped and fell and have injured my leg. I think the femur is broken. It is clearly infected. The skin has turned a bright, tight pink, and the pain is crashing in on waves, winter tides against my shoreline, drowning out the ache of my stones. I struggled back to the bothy to rest, but it has become clear that there is only one way. This is likely to
Alright, ouch. Doesn't
medical
sound
supplies I looted from the trawler have suddenly found their purpose.
nice at all, like
They
expiring
were
of
lucid for my final
infection.
ascent.
Another very dark spot between the rocks. Can we even get anywhere from here? Nope, it's just a dead end. Alright. So back we go. We can't really go here. Is this something other than another dead end? Yes, this is a cave. Alright, here's a candle. Oh, thank you, Luna. Always good to hear. And it's always try, of course. Happy to be here for you. Quite a luminescence. Wow. Eep.
Donnelly did not pass through the caves. From here on in, his guidance, unreliable as it is gone from me. I understand now that it is between the two of us, and whatever correspondence can be drawn from the wet rocks.
Alright. This would be the start of the next chapter. We are now deeper in the caves, and this is considering the usual stream length where we finish, as we have just finished the chapter. Ah yeah, Kisu drew new wiggle. That would be of course good. Let's switch, as we have now played about 1.5 hours. That was you even voted for the 1.5 hour length, so we are going to stick to that, especially as tomorrow is Monday. So let's switch to the webcam and let's post our new wiggle indeed. There we go. So yes. Yeah, Kamu, the bats returned to the castle. Indeed, they placed the bats differently in this view and the game view. So the bats returned to the castle as we finished the game for now. So let's see then who we will raid as the next topic on the agenda. hopefully you enjoyed Dear Esther this far, which certainly it was very interesting, kind of minimalist, kind of more like, as said, computerized novel than. So it was actually quite enjoyable and atmospheric. At least this one's opinion. Mr. Artiwolf is playing Overwatch 2, which is now really new. So are quite a few others. It seems the new Overwatch has very much arrived.
Because I'm planning on putting up a lot more content on YouTube.
Yeah, it would be called probably a walking simulator to a degree, but it's like, do you think it's a spiritual successor of the genre that existed more on home computers, like kind of a computerized novel? There was, for example, one that was, do believe, for like old home computers, C64 such, that was called A Mind Forever Wandering, where you also pieced a story together from like various bits and pieces you found in the game. So do you think that this is actually more or less continuation of that genre, because this is clearly like a computerized novel? You see things and you try to make the story out of them. So interesting. All right, let's raid. Alright, there's also Zero the Hyena is playing Boyfriend Dungeon. Do actually know the game, it's not probably. And Avalon J is actually playing Roller Coaster Tycoon with friends, so that might also be nice. Do not think have really raided Avalon, so let's see. Watch them shortly before started oneself, so let's see if they are still playing. Yes, let's go for our good Burp who says and the Roller Coaster Tycoon. So that should be quite nice and different from somewhat oppressive outer hybrids. Yep. So let's get ready for the raid. And do thank you all for joining. Really good viewership this time for Dear Esther, and we are certainly continuing the game some point this month again. Next stream will again be a calm game, most probably on Wednesday, unless feeling like a calm game earlier in the week. Monday and Tuesday are technically off, but it of course depends on mood. So thank you all for joining. Have a good night, and let's give Avalon our attention. So Dear Esther raid. Thank you all, and see you further to the week. So let's go.